Hey everyone, welcome back. Before we dive into today's jaw dropper, a small ask: if you enjoy true stories with a twist and love, rooting for the underdog, hit that subscribe button. It helps a ton. Now let's get into it. I'm Kai, 32, first-time homeowner, cybersecurity engineer, lifelong scapegoat in my own family, and recently the reluctant defendant in a lawsuit filed by my parents. Yep, you heard right. My own folks took me to court over the house I bought because they believed it should actually go to my younger brother. Let's rewind. I grew up in Lansing, Michigan, in what people would politely call a structured household. Dad Roy, 59, worked in upper management at an office supplies chain. Mom Janine, 57, was a receptionist at a local clinic. My younger brother Drew, now 28, was the golden retriever in human form. Star quarterback, charming, a master of the effortless smile, and completely allergic to responsibility. From day one, it was clear Drew could do no wrong. At 16, he got a brand new Toyota 4Runner. My first car, an ancient Corolla with no heat, bald tires, and a duct-taped bumper. They told me it was character building. Meanwhile, Drew's minor victories were met with celebration dinners and custom cakes. I made the dean's list 3 years running. That's great, Kai. Can you pick up milk? I kept my head down. Went to a local community college. Transferred to state. Paid my way through by working overnight shifts at a call center and eating more ramen than any human should. When I needed help with tuition, Dad said, "You're smart, you'll figure it out." Drew. He failed half his sophomore year and still got flown to Spain for a semester abroad to recenter. I didn't say much, I just worked. After school, I landed a job in IT support, clawed my way into cybersecurity, and started stacking certifications. Promotions came slowly but steadily. No handouts, just hustle. Eventually, I was able to sock away enough to start house hunting. My credit score was pristine, my savings hard-earned. When I finally put down a $90K deposit on a 3-bedroom in a solid neighborhood, it felt like every 2 a.m. troubleshooting ticket, every skipped vacation, every broken microwave meal had led to this. No flashy social media posts, no champagne photo ops. I just texted my best friend Theo and said, "We did it." We moved my stuff in over a weekend, played video games on the floor with pizza boxes for tables, and toasted with $4 wine. It was perfect. That feeling lasted all of 12 days. I was hanging shelves when I got the call from my mom. "Hi, sweetheart, how's the new place?" Her voice was all sugar. "Pretty good, still unpacking." Long pause. "Well, we have a bit of a situation with Drew." Of course we did. He'd just lost his job again. Something about creative differences with his boss, but I later learned it involved a client presentation he completely forgot to attend. And now he couldn't make rent. He just needs somewhere to crash. A few weeks, that's all Mom said. My spine stiffened. "Mom, I just moved in. I don't even have curtains yet." "You have 3 bedrooms, Kai. Don't be selfish. He's your brother." The guilt trip was immediate. Bye. I held my ground. Relief of the who's. I'll think about it. That night, Dad called. "Son, he's your brother. We raised you better than this." Then he dropped the bomb. "He's already packing. We told him you'd say yes." And just like that, Drew moved in, with 0 rent, 0 job, and 0 shame. The first week, fine. He helped build a bookshelf and even said thank you. I almost believed we'd turned a corner. Week 2, he rearranged my kitchen. Week 3, he invited friends over to chill without asking, left takeout containers everywhere, and took over my living room with his gaming setup. By week 5, my water bill had doubled. The thermostat was always at 65 lights blazed day and night, and my groceries vanished faster than I could restock them. Drew's job hunt non-existent. But his Tinder profile got updated twice a week. I tried to set boundaries. Curfews, shared chores, respect for shared space. He laughed. "Dude, relax. You act like I'm some squatter." Spoiler, he was. Then came the big idea. He told our parents he wanted to stay longer, 6 months minimum. Kai can afford it. He makes bank, Drew had said, like he wasn't actively burning through my electricity watching reruns of The Office in 4K. When I pushed back, Mom said I lacked compassion. Dad called me cold. Drew smirked and said, "You've always been jealous." Jealous of him, so I gave him 30 days. That's when all hell broke loose. I gave him 30 days. Not a request, a deadline. I even printed out a calendar, circled the date, and taped it to the fridge. But Drew just shrugged and went back to his gaming chair like it was a throne. Week 1 after the ultimatum, he started laying it on thick. "You know, man, I'm really starting to vibe with this place. It just feels like home, you know?" He said that with a straight face, feet on my coffee table, sipping the last of my almond milk like it was his. I didn't respond. No point. He wasn't listening anyway. A few nights later, I came home from work to find my office moved. Not just the chair pushed aside, no, the entire desk setup was now in the smallest bedroom. He had dragged everything computer monitors cables into that cramped space, and in its place, his gaming rig triple monitors LED lights blaring like a tech rave. Needed better lighting, he said, as if my home office was his to redecorate. That was the moment I realized this wasn't temporary for him. He wasn't planning to leave. I confronted him that night. Calm, clear, firm. You don't live here. You're a guest. You were supposed to be gone by now. That room is my workspace. You have a week left. Then you're out. He smirked, leaned back, and said the line that lit the fuse. Mom and Dad said, I can stay as long as I need. You don't want to fight them on this. That night, I changed the Wi-Fi password. Petty maybe, but I'd paid for every inch of that bandwidth. The fallout was instant. He stomped around like a toddler demanding access, claiming I was violating his right to connectivity. I told him he had a right to pack his bags. The next morning, my parents showed up. No call, no knock. Just appeared on my porch like a surprise inspection. This is unacceptable, Mom said, stepping into my kitchen like she still owned it. Your brother needs stability. Dad followed, holding some printed article about housing laws. They were trying to argue that because Drew had received mail at my address, and because he'd lived here over 30 days, he now had rights as a tenant. Tenant? My jaw actually dropped. Are you seriously trying to lawyer your way into keeping him here? Dad looked at me like I was being unreasonable. We're just trying to prevent a family rift. If you would just support him a little longer. No, I said, my voice flat. I did support him. I gave him space. I gave him time. He used it to freeload, rearrange my house, and destroy my boundaries. Mom started crying. Not subtle tears. Full sobs. Like I'd thrown Drew into the street during a snowstorm. He's struggling, Kai. He needs compassion. I looked at her, then at Drew, who was sitting on the couch eating chips like none of this involved him. He doesn't need compassion, I said. He needs consequences. I told them they had 10 minutes to leave. They tried to stall. Drew suddenly announced he felt unsafe. Unsafe. In my house. Because I asked him to leave. That's when I realized they were building a case. Slowly, strategically, they were trying to frame this like I was the aggressor. Like I was forcing out a vulnerable relative. So I started documenting everything. Photos of the damage, screenshots of texts, a log of conversations, receipts for repairs. Theo helped me set up extra cameras around the property. I backed up everything to a secure drive. Meanwhile, Drew upped the ante. He started inviting people over at random times. A guy with face tattoos sleeping on my couch. Someone else left a vape burn on my new coffee table. When I confronted him, he shrugged. They're my friends. Don't be weird. I wasn't weird. I was furious. The next week, I came home early, headache pounding, and walked into a full-blown house party. Loud music, drinks, people in every room. Someone had spilled beer on my rug. Another guy had clearly used my toothbrush. I didn't even yell. I just walked into the living room, pulled the plug on the speakers, and said, "Everybody out." Now. Drew tried to protest. I didn't care. I kicked them all out. Then I handed him an envelope, a formal eviction notice, 30 days legally backed. Filed it myself after researching state tenancy laws. That night, I changed the locks. He texted me threats, called my parents. They showed up again, banging on the door past midnight, yelling about illegal eviction and emotional abuse. I didn't open the door. I didn't respond. I just waited, phone recording everything. The next morning, I had a friend install reinforced locks and I added another camera. It felt like prepping for a siege, which wasn't far off. 3 days later, I was served. Legal papers, official. My parents were suing me for my house. Allegedly, they had invested emotionally and financially in my success and now believed the property belonged to Drew. Their filing claimed I had promised him permanent residence and had violated his rights by evicting him. They wanted the deed transferred to him. While I continued paying the mortgage, I read the documents 3 times, laughed, then almost threw up. This wasn't just favoritism anymore. This was war. I called Theo, told him everything. He came over with snacks and legal contacts. They're out of their minds, he said. But if they want to play stupid games, they're about to win stupid legal bills. I wasn't scared. I was done. I'd built my life from nothing. They thought they could just reach in and take it. No. Not this time. I was going to fight. No lawyer, just me, the truth, and every receipt. Let them explain to a judge why they thought feeding me as a kid made them co-owners of my mortgage. Court day didn't feel real. I stood in front of the mirror in my only tailored suit, the same one I wore for my last job interview, and thought, you're about to defend yourself from your own parents. I drove there in silence, no music, no news. Just me rehearsing what I'd already said 100 times in my head. When I arrived, they were already there. Mom in her church dress with matching heels, eyes red like she'd been crying for days. Dad standing stiffly next to her, arms crossed, looking like a man forced to clean up someone else's mess. Drew, of course, was on his phone. He didn't even look up when I walked past. Inside the courtroom, their lawyer kicked things off with the most dramatic retelling of our family history I've ever heard. You'd think they'd raised me in a mansion, homeschooled me with opera singers, and then sacrificed everything to send me to Yale. The attorney spun it all as a noble parent's investment in a brilliant son who suddenly turned cruel and kicked out his struggling brother. They even used the word betrayal. I could feel my jaw tightening. Then they presented evidence printouts of family photos, a screenshot of a text I sent to Drew saying, "You can stay for a bit until you get back on your feet," and a wildly annotated budget breakdown showing how my parents once bought me a winter coat in 2008. Not joking. When it was my turn, I didn't bother with theatrics. I laid out the facts. I pulled out my binder labeled tabs, color-coded highlights, and walked the judge through everything. Mortgage paperwork all in my name. Down payment pulled from my savings, documented with bank statements. Every utility repair and bill paid from my personal account. I even included pictures of the house before and after the rotted deck boards I replaced the leak under the kitchen sink. I patched the security cameras I installed, none of which Drew had touched. Then I handed over the party photos. Loud music, open alcohol containers, random strangers in my house, each one time-stamped. Followed by screenshots of texts from Drew, clearly showing he knew the stay was temporary. The judge flipped through them, then looked up. "Do you have any documentation that your son agreed to house his brother permanently?" Their lawyer sputtered something about implied intent and verbal agreements. The judge wasn't impressed. "Do you have anything showing financial contribution from the plaintiff's sweat equity?" Their lawyer tried. He mowed the lawn once, and I gave interior design suggestions. The judge stared for a long second. Suggestions, yes, he recommended a different TV. That was actually in the filing. I saw the judge suppress a sigh. He turned to me. "Do you have any record of confrontations or damage?" I handed over a repair estimate for the scratched floors and burnt coffee table. He read silently for a moment. Then came the silence. The kind that stretches so long your heartbeat feels loud. Finally, the judge closed the folder and leaned back. "This case has no legal merit. It appears the defendant acted reasonably and within his rights. The plaintiff was extended a courtesy, overstayed, and was legally evicted under appropriate procedures. The request to transfer property ownership is denied. Furthermore, I am dismissing the suit with prejudice." He paused. "And I'm ordering the plaintiffs to pay the defendant's filing fees. This court does not exist for frivolous family squabbles disguised as lawsuits." My parents looked frozen, like they couldn't process what just happened. Mom's mouth hung open. Dad blinked slowly, then leaned forward like he was about to argue. The judge was already standing up. It was over. Outside the courtroom, Mom broke down. She sobbed into Dad's chest, wailing about family betrayal. "Drew." He just glared at me, full of quiet rage. "This isn't over," he said. I didn't even reply. I walked past them like I didn't recognize them, like they were strangers in a story that no longer belonged to me. On the way to the car, I called Theo. "It's done," I said. He didn't ask for details, just said, "Good. Come by later. I've got wings and that new bourbon." And just like that, I felt lighter. But it didn't end there. Of course not. The fallout came quick. My mom called every cousin, aunt, and neighbor she could think of. She told them I'd humiliated the family, that I'd stolen Drew's future. One of my old high school teachers even messaged me on Facebook to say he was disappointed. I blocked him. I blocked a lot of people that week. I also found out my parents had borrowed money from my uncle Grant to cover legal costs. Claimed I had mental health issues. Said I needed intervention. Grant didn't buy it. He called to say he supported me and was cutting contact with them for good. "This isn't just favoritism anymore," he said. "They're con artists." Meanwhile, Drew moved back in with them. But that didn't last. Less than a month after the court case, their financial world started to unravel. Dad's company went through restructuring. He was forced into early retirement with reduced benefits. Mom's clinic replaced her with a younger hire. They lost nearly $20,000 in legal fees and had maxed out their credit cards trying to keep up appearances. I know all this because my cousin Janelle still talks to me. She sent screenshots of Drew's social posts, cryptic messages about betrayal karma and how the truth always comes out. Apparently, he was also using Mom's credit card behind her back. When she found out, he called it reimbursement for emotional trauma. They couldn't keep up the house. They sold it within 2 months, moved into a cramped 2-bedroom apartment on the other side of town. Drew had to sell his gaming rig. Dad had to sell his golf clubs. Mom posted a long Facebook status about starting over and the pain of being misunderstood by your own blood. I didn't comment. I didn't even read it until weeks later when Janelle sent it to me. I was too busy rebuilding. I replaced the furniture Drew's friends trashed, refinished the deck myself, started turning the 3rd bedroom into a home gym. Theo came over every Friday for poker and beer. It was peaceful. It felt like mine again. No more walking on eggshells. No more waiting for the next guilt trip. I adopted a rescue dog, Max, a big Rottweiler with a bark like thunder and a heart of gold. 3 years old. Owner surrender. Their loss, my gain. He patrols the yard like a security guard and sleeps next to my bed every night like it's his job to keep the peace. Maybe it is. Maybe that's what we all need sometimes. A little peace, a little loyalty that doesn't come with conditions. For 6 weeks after the verdict, my phone was silent. No calls, no texts. Not even a passive-aggressive Bible verse from Mom. It was like they'd disappeared. And honestly, I started to hope they finally got the message. Maybe they'd realized they'd pushed too far. But hope's a funny thing. It sneaks in when your guard drops, and I should have known better. That first message came on a Sunday. From Dad. We need to talk. It's important. No greeting, no apology, just those 5 words. I didn't respond. The next day, another text, this time from Drew. A full paragraph that started with, "I'm sorry," and ended with, "Mom and Dad are really struggling right now. They might lose the apartment." I stared at the screen for a while, then turned it off. I didn't even flinch. Because when someone uses the word sorry without naming what they're sorry for, it's not an apology, it's bait. I didn't bite. A few days later, I got an email at my work address. Subject line, "From your brother." Inside was a long, rambling message about how he was in therapy, how he was trying to reflect how things had spiraled, and how he missed having me in his life. Buried in the last paragraph was the real reason he wrote. "Mom and Dad are 3 months behind on rent. The credit cards are maxed. I know you're doing well. Maybe you could help. Just this once." That "just this once" part. That's when I felt the anger return, not sharp, but slow and cold. The kind of anger you feel when someone mistakes your silence for softness. I didn't reply. I printed the email, added it to my folder, and moved on. I started waking up earlier, walking Max through the neighborhood before work. There's something about morning air that clears your head, no noise, no expectations, just your feet on the pavement and the dog trotting beside you like you've got nowhere to be and all day to get there. Life felt balanced again. Until Saturday. I was fixing a loose hinge on the backyard gate when I heard a knock at the front door. Not the usual doorbell, a hard, deliberate knock. I wiped my hands, rounded the corner, and checked the security cam. It was Dad. Alone. Wearing a windbreaker he probably hadn't worn since I was in high school. He looked older, tired, but not humble. I tapped the intercom on my phone. Yes, he looked straight into the camera like he could see me through it. "I need to talk to you, Kai." "Face to face." "No, just 5 minutes. You said everything you needed to say in court." He pressed his lips together, then tried a softer voice. "They're going to evict us. Drew maxed out your mother's card. We're down to cereal and pasta. We need a loan, just to get current. We'll pay you back. You have my word." I stayed silent. He kept going. "You're our son. We raised you. We gave you everything we could." That's when I snapped. Not loud, not angry, just done. "You gave everything to Drew. You gave me hand-me-downs, gaslighting, and guilt. Then you sued me for the one thing I earned on my own. And now you want a bailout?" He tried to interrupt. I didn't let him. "No." His face changed. The sadness evaporated, replaced by something sharp and familiar. "After everything we did for you, everything you did," I said, "was about control, not love." And I ended the call. That night I blocked his number again. The next morning, I walked out to get the paper and found a note on my windshield. No envelope, just folded paper under the wiper. In Mom's handwriting, "We never thought you'd turn out so cold. Family forgives, family supports. When you're older and alone, maybe you'll remember who wiped your nose and packed your lunch. We're not perfect, but we're still your parents." There was no signature, just that tone, that righteous entitlement. I crumpled it and tossed it without reading it twice. The truth is, they weren't asking for help. They were demanding restitution for not being able to control me anymore. They weren't mourning a broken family. They were panicking over a closed wallet. That week, I had dinner with Theo and his wife. We grilled on the deck, Max stretched out on the patio like a furry sentry, and for the first time in a long while, I laughed without hesitation. Real laughter. The kind that comes from knowing you're no longer responsible for fixing other people's messes. Theo asked if I felt guilty. I didn't, because what they lost wasn't because of me. It was the cost of betting everything on the wrong son. And when he burned the bridge, they thought they could build a new one on my back. But bridges don't work that way, especially when the one you're walking on finally burns you back, and I was just getting started. A few weeks after that last doorstep visit, life had fallen into a rhythm. Mornings with Max worked during the day, evenings filled with peace. No more surprise knocks, no guilt-laced voicemails. The silence finally felt permanent, and then an email landed in my inbox. The subject line was simple. "Just in case you ever wondered, no name, just a return address I didn't recognize." I hovered my mouse over it, expecting spam. But something made me click. Inside was a short message. "Your mom lied about the college fund. I thought you should know." See attached was a scanned letter dated nearly a decade ago. My heart rate kicked up. I opened it. It was from my Aunt Camille, my mom's estranged sister. The letter was sharp, bitter, and full of emotion. "Janine, I told you years ago that favoring one child would come back to haunt you. You drained Kai's fund for Drew's private tuition. You used the money we all contributed, even what Dad left for both boys. You promised you'd balance it out. You never did. I'm done watching this from the sidelines. You told everyone the market crashed. That wasn't true. You pulled it willingly. And when Kai asked for help with dental bills, you said you couldn't afford it while wiring Drew rent money in Barcelona." I had to stop and reread that paragraph 3 times. The air felt heavy. The room went quiet in a way that makes you hear your own blood rushing in your ears. I sat back reading every line, slowly feeling something settle inside me. It wasn't surprise, it was confirmation. I'd suspected the truth for years, but seeing it spelled out in ink from someone who had no reason to lie, it hit different. It wasn't paranoia, it wasn't bitterness, it was fact. They didn't just favor Drew. They built him up with bricks stolen from my future. I replied to the sender immediately. "Camille?" She responded 10 minutes later. "Yes, I saw everything. I wasn't allowed to speak at the court case. They threatened to cut me off if I got involved. But I couldn't stay quiet anymore. I kept that letter for years. Thought you might need it one day. I'm sorry for waiting this long." We exchanged a few messages over the next week. She filled in gaps. How my grandparents had set aside equal funds for me and Drew. How Mom had slowly funneled mine into Drew's education car travel. How Dad justified it by saying Kai will figure it out. He always does. I asked why she never said anything sooner. She said she tried. But every time she brought it up, my parents either gaslit her or threatened to cut contact. Eventually, she gave up. Until now, I didn't feel angry. I felt freed. Like the weight I'd carried wasn't mine anymore. It had a name, a source, a fingerprint. I wasn't crazy for feeling second. I was just quiet while they rewrote the story. I printed the letter, put it in the same folder with the court papers. It didn't change the outcome, but it rewrote the past. And sometimes rewriting the past is the only way to make peace with it. Around the same time, I started noticing strange activity online. Drew had taken to posting vague, melodramatic status updates on social media. Stuff like you think cutting people off makes you stronger? Try being the one who got cut. And real ones stay silent while the snakes brag. Some people commented with sympathy. Others, mostly old high school friends, just rolled their eyes. One guy even wrote, "Didn't you live off your brother for 3 months and then sue him?" Sit down. That made me laugh. But the storm hadn't fully passed. Not yet. Because Drew wasn't done trying to paint himself as the victim. And when the sympathy train ran dry online, he tried one more thing. A podcast. That's right. He started a podcast. Called it Bloodlines. The logo was some melodramatic font over a cracked family photo. I wouldn't have known about it if Theo's wife hadn't sent me a link. "This your brother's latest project?" she texted with an eye roll emoji. I clicked it out of curiosity. The episode titles were priceless: The Brother Who Stabbed Me, The House That Broke Us, Gaslight Gatekeep Homeowner. I couldn't believe it. He was using my story, our story, to build a following. In the first episode, he called me Jay and himself R, but the details weren't even disguised. He told listeners how he was evicted without warning, how his parents were cast aside, and how he was trying to heal from betrayal. It was all dramatized nonsense, but it painted a clear picture of who he wanted people to blame. I debated responding. I even drafted a tweet at one point. But I stopped myself, because responding would give him what he wanted: fuel. So instead I let it sit. Let him talk into the void. And I kept building my life in silence. My relationship with Sarah, the veterinarian I met when I adopted Max, had started to deepen. She was grounded, empathetic, and knew all about boundaries. She didn't flinch when I told her the whole story. She didn't offer advice I didn't ask for. She just said, "That sounds like it hurt. And you did what you had to do." That's when I realized I wasn't looking for justice anymore. I already had it. What I was building now wasn't revenge, it was recovery. I wasn't interested in proving anything, I just wanted peace. And peace doesn't come when people admit they were wrong. It comes when you stop needing them to. That's what Drew never understood. He kept waiting for someone to hand him dignity while I quietly built mine from scratch. So I let his podcast run its course. He made 6 episodes, then stopped uploading, probably ran out of stories or sympathy. Camille and I stayed in touch. She mailed me old family photos, some where I'd been cropped out over the years. "Thought you'd want the originals," she wrote in a note. One photo hit me hardest: me and Drew at a lake, both around 9 or 10. I had a stick pretending it was a sword. He had an ice cream cone half melted down his arm. We looked like any other siblings. That moment was real. Before the imbalance, before the choices, before they decided who was worth saving. I framed it, put it on a shelf in my home office. Not to remember him, but to remember who I was before everything. Before I was the fallback, the fixer, the invisible son. And for the first time in years, I felt whole. By the time fall rolled around, I had everything they said I wouldn't. Peace, space, a life that didn't feel like it came with a guilt tax. Max had become more than a guard dog. He was a daily reminder that loyalty, when earned, honestly doesn't come with strings. He'd follow me room to room, resting his head near the door anytime I worked late. Sarah started coming over more often. She'd leave a hoodie behind or a toothbrush, not on purpose, just casually planting roots. There was no pressure, no performance. Just a woman who liked me for who I was, not what I could fix. We'd make simple dinners, walk Max in the evenings, sometimes sit on the porch and just watch the sun disappear behind the trees. It wasn't loud, it wasn't flashy, but it felt like something solid. Something mine. Then out of nowhere came the final twist. A letter. Real paper. No return address, just a name on the front mine. Inside was a folded sheet. 2 lines in handwriting I hadn't seen in years. "I still think you're wrong, but I hope someday you'll see we meant well. Dad." That was it. No apology, no acknowledgement, just that hollow mix of defiance and pride that had always defined him. I read it once, then shredded it. Because closure doesn't come from their regret. It comes when you stop needing them to explain. I wasn't bitter anymore, just done. The past wasn't a wound now. It was a scar. Healed, visible, but no longer painful. Theo joked that I should frame that letter too. "Call it the final receipt," he said, laughing. But I didn't need proof anymore. The house was proof. The peace. The silence that wasn't empty but earned. I spent that winter rebuilding everything they'd tried to tear apart. Not just the home, but me. I refinished the floors in the spare room, the ones scratched during Drew's party. Painted the walls, set up a reading nook. Turned it into a space that felt like breathing. The couch that reeked of spilled beer and smoke. Gone. Replaced it with a gray sectional that made the whole room feel like a hug. My Friday poker nights with Theo and the guys became a ritual. We'd laugh about the week, talk trash over cheap whiskey, and every once in a while someone would ask, "So your brother ever come back for round 2? And I'd shake my head. Nope, story's over. But the truth is, part of me didn't think it was. Not in the dramatic sense, but in the quiet way that broken people circle back hoping time erased memory. So I stayed ready. New locks, more cameras, A paper trail that could put a lawyer to sleep, not out of fear, but out of self-respect. Because when you survive a family like mine, protection isn't paranoia. It's preservation. Camille and I stayed close. She visited once with a box of old journals, letters, even holiday cards I'd never received. "They told us you were too busy to come around," she said. "Turns out they just didn't invite you." One of the cards was from my grandmother before she passed. She'd written, "We're proud of you, Kai, no matter what your parents say." That one went straight to the wall, right next to the lake photo. The gym room came together too. Nothing fancy, just a barbell set, a squat rack, some dumbbells, but every time I lifted, I felt like I was loading more than just weights. It was like shedding every version of me they didn't see, every part of me they ignored, dismissed, or mocked. Reclaiming my strength one rep at a time. Sarah loved the setup. She'd stretch next to Max while I lifted, music, low air crisp through the open window. Sometimes we didn't say much. We didn't need to. That's how I knew it was real. She never asked for the story. I gave it to her in pieces. She never judged, just nodded and squeezed my hand. Once she said, "They lost a good man. Their loss won't end with a lawsuit." She was right. The fallout didn't end in court. It continued quietly. My parents never recovered financially. I heard from Camille that they'd sold their car, were relying on public transport. Dad got a part-time job at a hardware store. Mom was doing admin work at a dental office across town. Drew, he was working retail, mall kiosk, one of those accessory phone stands, occasionally trying to revive his podcast. Last I heard, he moved in with an old teammate until that collapsed over unpaid bills. Camille said they were still bitter, still convinced I'd abandoned them, that I owed them. I didn't care. I didn't wish them harm. I just wished they'd finally see the truth. But that was their burden, not mine. My life, it moved forward. I paid off my student loans. Finally. Took Max on a road trip up north, just me, him, and the open highway. Stayed in a cabin for a few days, hiked, slept in, ate like a king. It was simple. It was joy. Then I came back and Sarah moved in. We made it official without a big announcement. Just boxes, quietly unpacked, toothbrushes lined up together, a second coffee mug always in the sink. Home. I bought another property that spring. A duplex across town, rented out both units. Passive income. My first real step toward financial freedom. My phone, once full of family guilt and manipulative texts, now buzzed with tenant updates and weekend plans. And through all of it, I kept the same rule: no more apologies without action. No more family by blood unless they also acted like family by heart. Camille family. Theo family. Sarah and Max, absolutely. The rest, ghosts of a life I no longer lived. People sometimes ask if I'll ever forgive them, but they're asking the wrong question. Forgiveness isn't always about them. Sometimes it's about giving yourself permission to stop bleeding for people who wouldn't hand you a Band-Aid. And that's what I did. I forgave myself for the years I tried to earn love I already deserved, for the silence I accepted, for the excuses I swallowed, for thinking their approval meant anything at all. Closure didn't come from a courtroom. It didn't come from a letter. It came the day I realized I didn't need anything from them anymore. Not money, not apologies, not love. And as I stood in my own house, dog at my feet woman, I loved by my side a life that I built brick by brick. I finally understood what peace really was. It's not forgetting the past. It's building something so strong in spite of it that nothing from before can shake it again. That's the real inheritance. And this time it's mine to keep. Story 2, Get Lost. You are not worthy just because you pay your expenses. On New Year's Eve, my brother came through the door with a bark, then freeze without spending any money on me. As I was canceling each payment, I lost my temper. A few days later, I presented them with 2 options. Before we begin today's video, hello everyone. I need your assistance. One of the best ways you can help us out is to subscribe. As we've observed, the channel is losing some of its popularity. It's simple, free, and helps us continue to provide you with amazing content. Your assistance is greatly appreciated. Together, let's continue to build this channel. Many thanks. Let's begin the video now. Reddit, hello. All of this began roughly a year and a half ago. I made the decision to celebrate New Year's with my family in a surprise. How did they respond? They behaved as though I didn't exist, slammed the door in my face and told me to get lost. I therefore gave them a lesson they would never forget. This is what transpired. For the past 5 years, I, a 29-year-old man, have been working tirelessly in the scorching Arizona sun installing solar panels. particularly in Phoenix, where every new neighborhood aspires to become green for the tax benefits the solar sector has been flourishing. I made $18 an hour as a basic installation at first, but by being dependable and not being a jerk like half the guys in my industry, I was able to advance to crew chief. I currently oversee teams of installers for both residential and commercial projects, earning $75,000 a year. For the past 5 years, I have also been providing for my family. For years, Jay, my best friend from high school, has been watching this. He runs his own shop as an auto mechanic. Built like a tank, this person has no tolerance for bullshit. His evaluation of my circumstances. You're like a victim of financial Stockholm syndrome, dude. You keep repeating thank you after these individuals have drained you dry. Even if you don't want to hear it, Jay is the type of buddy who will tell you precisely what you need to hear. Because he treats people decently and doesn't take garbage from anyone, he has been successful. My cat Larry was the only other person who appeared to recognize how chaotic things were becoming. I've had this plump orange tabby for 3 years, and he's a better judgment of people than most people. This is how it all began in 2019 when Dad lost his job. They had already filed for foreclosure and were 3 months past due on their mortgage. No games were being played by the bank. They were given 60 days to make $4,200 in overdue payments plus penalties, or else they would be dismissed. I felt as though I had won the jackpot when I was just promoted to crew chief and earning $65,000 a year. They would never be able to repay the loan after years of struggling to make ends meet. I made what I believed to be a wise choice. I paid $180,000 to buy their house outright. I took out a tiny personal loan, spent my entire savings account, and liquidated my 401k early with penalties. For tax protection, I put the deed only in my name and assured them that they could repay me over time. Constructed in the 1990s, the house is a respectable ranch with 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. It is in a decent neighborhood with low crime and good schools. Given the steady increase in property values, its current value should be close to $220,000. With 2 incomes, they should have been able to afford the $850 monthly mortgage they couldn't afford. However, Linda and Rick have never handled money well. For the next 4 years, they never gave me any money back. Not one. I kept thorough records of every expense, including $3,200 in property taxes each year, $1,800 in homeowners insurance per year, and $12,000 for a new roof in 2023 following hail damage, and $8,500 for a new HVAC system when the previous one died during a heat wave. Tree root plumbing problems cost $2,400, $1,600 for a garage door replacement. The exterior paintwork cost $3,800, which I paid for out of pocket while they pretended that staying there was a favor for me. The impact on finances was severe. In essence, I was trying to save for my own future while providing for 3 individuals with my salary. My savings account hovered close to nothing for years. I was unable to upgrade my truck, and I had to put off buying my own home. In the meantime, they were living without a mortgage in a home that would have otherwise cost them $1,200 a month to rent. Rick and Linda, my 52-year-old parents, seem as though everything is centered around them. Despite claiming that his back is too broken to work following his layoff from a warehouse job, Rick manages to spend 12 hours a day in my garage restoring his 1985 Camaro. Linda works at Sheer Perfection, a beauty shop, for perhaps 15 hours every week. It's as tacky as it sounds, too. She gossips about clients more often than she actually cuts hair, then complains about her demanding job when she gets home. Josh, my 24-year-old brother, has no professional value. After just 1 semester, this student left Arizona State University after bouncing around. Phoenix Community College experienced 2 dropouts. After graduating from Universal Technical Institute, he likely held 30 different jobs but never used his automobile qualification. He has had positions at a call center, Best Buy, GameStop, 3 different restaurants, and several temp agencies. Nowhere did it survive longer than 6 months. He's currently developing his brand as a freelance graphic designer, earning around $200 a month, while pretending to be the next Steve Jobs and creating awful logos for his stoner friends. Josh is the kind of person who will steal your tools, eat your food, and then use your Netflix login to disparage you to everybody who will listen. The way they handled me in public was the worst. Josh used to bring people to my place, make jokes about me being the moneybags while acting as though he was in charge. Rick used to gripe about his son micromanaging him over home renovations. I always had opinions about their decorating choices in my house, Linda would tell her sisters. She would purchase wall paintings and throw cushions with my money, then pretend that I was being unreasonable for questioning the costs. She wanted to renovate the kitchen last year for $15,000, which I didn't have, and she became upset when I told her no. However, everything changed on New Year's Eve 2023, which was the tipping point. 31st December 2023. With my arms stuffed with food and party items I purchased for their New Year's celebration, I stand at my front door. We were experiencing a cold spell, but the temperature is only around 20 degrees, which is rare for Arizona. As if I were a door-to-door salesperson attempting to sell her solar panels, Mom unlocks the door. When she sees me, her expression goes utterly blank, as if she were staring at a stranger. The house you live in must be incorrect. I'm standing there completely bewildered. Mom, it's me. What are you discussing? Her eyes are lifeless as she looks at me. I have no idea who you are. She then begins to shut the door. The door, she's literally ignoring me like I'm some random person who got up to the wrong place, even though I'm holding hundreds of dollars worth of their party goods. Are you serious? For tonight, I purchased all of the food and beverages. Your charity is not necessary for us. She shuts the door in my face with a snap. They were smiling, and there was music playing inside while I stood out in the cold for 10 minutes. From the backyard, I could smell the barbecue. They had steaks on the barbecue. My phone is buzzing. Josh texted, "Bro, try not to take it personally. You weren't invited this year, according to Mom. Something about requiring only positive energy and boundaries. Make some pals your own age, perhaps." At that moment, I could clearly hear Rick's voice coming through the window. Perhaps he will now see that splurging does not equate to family. Because he pays some bills, the kid believes he owns us. Then Josh's voice became even more distinct. To be honest, it's pitiful. He is still attempting to buy our love at the age of 29. Perhaps he will learn some self-respect by being locked out. Linda's laughter reached my ears. Do you agree? He has become far too active in our company. I was struck by the words like a freight train. They were indeed mine. The house they were sitting in, cracking jokes about me, belonged to me. I was the owner of the foundation they stood on the walls surrounding them and the roof over their heads. I had been covering their insurance, property taxes, water, and energy bills. They were rejoicing in their freedom from me, utilizing the materials I was offering, holding goods for folks who had just rejected me while standing there in the cold. I experienced a flash of complete insight. 4 years of free housing didn't make them feel appreciative. For that, they were angry with me. They would rather be homeless than accept my assistance. Feeling sorry for myself, I was going to drive home and spend New Year's alone. I called Jay from the driveway, still carrying grocery bags like a fool, when I realized he had invited me to his family's party. I was shut out. Theo, Jesus Christ. Come on over here now. About 20 minutes from my house is the quiet neighborhood where Jay's family resides. The sort of place where kids play in the streets and neighbors genuinely talk to each other. Carol, his mother, instantly went into full Italian mama mode when I arrived with bags of food and champagne. What are you doing, Theo, bringing food? We've got lots. Jay explained the situation to me. Those folks are utterly crazy. Since high school, Carol has been like a second mother to me. Every time someone comes around, this little Italian woman nevertheless manages to feed an army. The smell of fresh bread and garlic fills her home. She also has a way of making everyone feel accepted. The complete antithesis of how my own family had recently greeted me. Jay showed up with an already crackled drink for me. So, please let me get this right. They claimed not to know you when you arrived at your residence and purchased food for their party. Basically. Jay burst out laughing, but not cruelly. More like he was shocked that things had gotten so out of control. This episode of Punk'd is so messed up, dude. However, no one has informed you that the prank has been going on for 4 years. As he seasoned some steaks, his father Tony, a former construction worker, shook his head. Son, in my time you wouldn't be denying someone a New Year's present if they purchased your property to keep you from going into foreclosure. Before his knees failed, Tony spent 30 years building houses. He is aware of the importance of property upkeep costs and ownership responsibilities. The legal element captivated Jay's sister Maria, a paralegal who deals with real estate transactions. Are you on the deed then? They are unaware that you truly own it, even if you cover all the costs. To keep it in the family, they believe I'm only assisting with the payments. Professional interest glowed in Maria's eyes. Theo, oh my God. If you wanted to, you could kick them out tomorrow. They essentially have fantasies of ownership and are squatters. She began outlining the legal principles. Tenant rights, adverse possession, and eviction protocols. She was aware of my family's legal predicament because she handles real estate paperwork on a daily basis. They lacked any paperwork, a lease, or any kind of ownership rights. Jay almost spat his drink out. Tell me you're thinking about it, please. Yes, I am. It was an amazing contrast. My biologic family was celebrating my absence in a home I owned while I was sitting in a cozy home with people who truly cared for me. When midnight drew near, Jay lifted his glass. The champagne I purchased for my family's celebration was given to Theo, who would soon discover the distinction between family and others who chanced to have his DNA. Jay took me away as everyone was cheering when the ball dropped. You know what you have to do, don't you? What is that? This is our house game, is what they want to play. Watch their world fall apart as you demonstrate the deed. In that moment, something clicked in my head. Like when Sam Rothstein discovers he has been duped by those he trusted in the casino. They needed to be reminded of who is in control. January 1st, 2024. I'm sitting in my flat drinking coffee and feeling furious using my laptop to investigate eviction procedures and tenant rights. My place isn't particularly fancy. I've been paying all the bills for a house I can't live in while renting a one-bedroom apartment for $900 a month. For the first time in months, Larry was sitting on my desk and watching me do legal research with apparent approval. After years of criticizing my family's circumstances, this cat appeared to know that I was finally prepared to take action. Larry, what do you think? It's time to discipline them. Larry extended his arm, gave me a lazy blink in cat language, and knocked my pen off the desk. That simply means, you moron, it's about darn time. Around midday, Jay stopped by with breakfast sandwiches from this deli that we both adore. So, are we going all nuclear, or did you sleep on it like a responsible adult full nuclear, like I said? These folks need to understand who is truly in possession of what. I had spent the entire morning researching the landlord-tenant legislation in Arizona. Tenants at will, as it turns out, are persons who live on your land without a lease and can be expelled with 30 days notice for any cause or no reason at all. No protection if there is no lease. Then, thanks to internet reviews and recommendations from other landlords, I discovered Anastasia. In eviction proceedings, this woman is known for being utterly brutal. She has about a 98% success rate. Additionally, she has endorsements from landlords who have had to deal with troublesome tenants for years. When I presented the problem to her during our consultation, she grinned like a predator. Dark wood and intimidating legal texts filled her office. Even though Anastasia was just 5 feet 4 inches tall, her presence made it easy to see why renters were afraid of her. The house is yours then. They haven't paid rent for 4 years and they are unaware that you are the property's owner. That's right. She grinned. It's going to be enjoyable. How quickly would you like them to leave? As quickly as he could, Jay leaned forward. On New Year's Eve, he was shut out by these folks. I described everything, including Josh's social media posts, the ongoing cash demands, the complaints to neighbors, and the complete lack of appreciation. I had a lot of documentation, and Anastasia took notes and asked insightful questions. In my 15 years of experience, I have never seen a case this straightforward. All the paperwork is with you. Their actions have been egregious and they have no legal basis. They will be destroyed by us. I prepared my eviction documents 2 days later. In large, bold characters that would make anyone sick to their stomach, the notice to quit and the demand for ownership of the premises are shown. Simple yet devastating were the crucial terms. Linda Rick and Josh Morrison, the current residents, have 30 days to leave the property or face formal eviction and removal with sheriff's assistance. As an alternative, they may continue to be renters and pay $1,000 a month with the first month's rent due in 10 days. In order to make me appear reasonable in court, Anastasia proposed the rent alternative. They couldn't afford $1,000 a month, as we both knew. Offering the option would make me look generous to a judge while knowing they'd probably fail. The rent option serves multiple purposes, Anastasia explained, referring to their inability to pay their original $850 mortgage. You appear reasonable and fair as a result. You get them out much quicker if they take it and don't pay if they decline. When I brought the documents home, you seemed like the good man who made an effort to cooperate with them. After glancing at the legal documents, Larry sat up slowly and erect and blinked at me as if he were speaking. And lastly, you're not being a total softie. After reading the notice of eviction, Jay began to smile. This is stunning. I drove home on January 3rd with the documents and a process server that Anastasia had set up. Jay was determined to attend the performance. Nothing would make me miss this. This is superior to any film. Rick appeared dazed and hungover when he answered the door in his bathrobe. When he saw me with this official-looking stranger in a suit, his expression changed from one of annoyance to genuine confusion. They are aware. Why are you here? Who is this guy? Professionally and efficiently, the process server stepped forward. A legal notification about this property is being served to you, Richard Morrison. He gave Rick a receipt to sign along with the documents. The service is over. I wish you luck. Rick's face became white and Jay stood behind me trying not to laugh. His face flushed as he read the first few words, realizing that these weren't phony documents or a practical joke. What on earth is this? What's going on, Theo? Rick read it carefully. Linda snatched the papers out of Rick's trembling hands and hurried to the door. As she read, she raised the pitch of her voice. It must be a hoax. This house belongs to us. Instead of attempting to comprehend the situation, Josh showed up behind them with his typical instant aggression. Theo, this is BS. You cannot just fabricate fictitious legal documents. Examine the county's documentation. Linda, the deed has had my name on it for 4 years. You've been treating me like trash and living in my house for free. Josh lost it all at that point, which is precisely what I anticipated. What a piece of garbage you are for lying. You cannot possibly be the owner of this house. You're upset about New Year's, so you're just trying to frighten us. The county records are open to the public, Josh. Right now you can use your phone to look them up online. Ignore that. This is our home. No, we're not leaving. Do you want us to leave? Come force us to go. Jay, who is 6'2", took a step forward. Youngster, it's not the best legal tactic to threaten the real property owner. They chose to contest the notification rather than attempting to comprehend their legal predicament or take it seriously. Josh persuaded Rick and Linda that the documents were fraudulent and that I was bluffing, that I could be exposed for attempting to steal their house by a lawyer they hired. Watching the hallucination was amazing. The familial turmoil erupted in a matter of hours. Relatives who had heard Linda's drastically altered version of events were calling me nonstop. Naturally, the majority were siding with her without seeking clarification or making an effort to comprehend the true legal circumstances. Aunt Carol, who was upset that I was dumping family members on the streets, called. A string of irate texts about loyalty, family, and blood being thicker than water were sent by Cousin Jenny. Uncle Jim expressed his disappointment at me in a lengthy voicemail saying that this was not how he intended me to treat his family. Linda was propagating the story that I was suffering some sort of mental breakdown that was making me vengeful, that I was jealous of their secure home life, and that I was attempting to take their house using fictitious legal documents. However, Rick's older brother, Uncle Samuel, also known as Samuel, is 58 years old and has been a master plumber for 35 years. Before he could afford a professional shop, this guy started Morrison Plumbing out of nothing and operated out of his garage. He's brought up 4 children. He put them all through college when his wife passed away from cancer while they were young, and he has little tolerance for excuses or lazy individuals. Because Samuel believes Rick is a useless mooch who has never accepted responsibility for anything in his life, the two have been at odds for decades. Samuel always finishes family get-togethers by criticizing Rick for being unemployed, broke, or offering justifications for his most recent failure. It's Samuel, Theo. Carol is having a breakdown about you evicting Rick and Linda, and I just got off the phone with her. Do you want to tell me the truth about this situation? I described everything. Unlike most of the time, Samuel listened without interjecting. A long silence. Are you implying that Rick is unaware that you have been his landlord for 4 years? Yes, exactly. Samuel burst out laughing, genuinely giggling. Jesus Christ, that slothful jerk Theo has been griping about being ruled by his own kid who has been providing him with free rent. The funniest thing I've heard this year is this. So, you don't believe that I'm being too severe? Too severe? You ought to have expelled them years ago, kid. Linda has allowed Rick to be a deadbeat for his whole adult life. Josh, on the other hand, has been a smart-ass punk ever since he was able to walk. Samuel's assistance was amazing, following hours of irate phone calls from other family members who were believing Linda's victim story. Theo. Let me explain. For 20 years, I've been trying to make Rick behave like a responsible adult. The finest thing you could have done for him was to buy his house and give him free occupancy. And because he is too entitled and foolish to value it, he threw it away. Samuel informed me about Rick's failures over the years, including the jobs he resigned, the businesses he attempted to create, the money he borrowed and never paid back, and other people's money. For decades, he had seen Rick fail at life while blaming everyone else and making excuses. Anastasia called with an update 3 days later. Theo, they are disputing the eviction and have engaged a lawyer. They are accusing fraud and asserting adverse possession. Are you serious? Extremely serious. Martin Goldberg is their attorney. We refer to him as a bottom feeder. If the money is right, he'll take any case. He is submitting a motion arguing that they ought to have ownership rights because they have been residing there openly for 15 years. The court hearing was set for 10 a.m. on January 25th. Along with Anastasia, I arrived in my finest attire with a folder containing all the paperwork that proved my ownership, including the property deed, tax returns, purchase documents, maintenance invoices, and bank statements. They arrived with Martin. Josh was posing as like he was going to reveal some huge conspiracy while sporting his only dress shirt. From the beginning, Judge Martinez appeared irritated. She has obviously seen cases like this before. Tenants with delusions who believe they could use legal tactics to steal property. Goldberg, Mr. The property that your clients are claiming adverse possession of is not theirs. My clients have lived in this property for 15 years and have made significant modifications, Your Honor. Do they have records of these advancements? Goldberg nervously shuffled his papers. Well, that's Your Honor. For certain material, they have receipts. Do you have the property deed, Mr. Morrison? Anastasia got up with a cool, collected demeanor. Indeed, Your Honor. Since he bought the home in 2019 to avoid foreclosure, Mr. Theo Morrison has been the only owner. And this acquisition was known to the defendants. Indeed, Your Honor. Although he kept exclusive ownership, Mr. Morrison bought the property to save his family from going into foreclosure. Anastasia meticulously provided our proof, including a purchase paperwork proving that I had paid $180,000 in cash, and a deed transfer proving that I was the sole owner. Property taxes paid in my name for 4 years. Policies for insurance in my name. Receipts for repairs and renovations totaling more than $30,000. Everything was recorded. Everything is lawful. Goldberg had virtually nothing when it came to his turn. No records, no proof. Only asserts that because my family had lived there for a longer period of time, they were entitled to the house. He had no evidence to support his claim that I had somehow deceived them. The judge's dismissal was harsh. Adverse possession necessitates certain legal requirements, which your clients obviously do not meet, Mr. Goldberg. Their possession is not continuous. They do not have open and infamous possession, nor do they have hostile possession. The property is legally owned by Mr. Morrison, who has been covering all costs and desires to take control of it. We've rejected your motion. Defendants must leave within 30 days. Josh got up like a fool. This is nonsense. You cannot simply take our homes. If that man talks again without permission, bailiff, get him out. Josh was yelling in the hallway as we left about dishonest judges and treachery by family members. He was threatened with arrest by courthouse security for disturbing the peace. Uncle Samuel called that evening, his voice clearly pleased. Carol told me about the court hearing, Theo. I informed her exactly how I feel about the matter, but she's all wound up over Rick and Linda losing. You told her what I informed her, that Rick has always been a sloth, that you allowed them to live rent-free for 4 years and prevented their asses from going into foreclosure, and that by treating you like trash, they caused this for themselves. Additionally, I informed her that anyone who supports Rick in this situation is a fool. They were forced to confront reality after being ruined in court. Instead of facing eviction and homelessness, their attorney Goldberg essentially told them they had no case and advised them to try negotiating with me. The court loss had been complete and well reported. Nobody was in doubt who owned the residence. There are no ambiguities regarding their legal rights. Everyone realized that legally speaking, they were squatters. On February 1st, Linda called, her voice trembling in despair. We've been searching everywhere, Theo, honey. We require the first month, last month, and security deposit, and everything reasonable costs at least $1,200. That type of money is not available to us. In order for Jake to hear, I put the call on speaker. As soon as he finished organizing some files for me, he smiled. I can assure you that Larry, who was seated on the couch across from us, was paying attention to the talk. Linda, that sounds like a personal issue. Could we rent from you, please? We will fairly compensate you. All we need is a chance to demonstrate our ability to be responsible tenants. The irony was astounding. She had locked me out on New Year's Eve after attempting to steal my house in court, and now she was pleading to be my tenant after 4 years of living rent-free. Behind me, Jay was attempting to make me laugh with a lot of jerking off motions. Larry seemed to be enjoying the spectacle as he glanced between us. $1,000 per month. February 10th is due for the first month. Lease that is month to month. Therefore, if you make a mistake, even once, I have the right to fire you with 30 days notice. $1,000. That's a lot of money, Theo. Is it not possible for us to begin at $700 and gradually increase it? Similar homes in your neighborhood, Linda. $1,200 to $1,400 for rent. I'm offering you a deal. Accept it or reject it. Rick called with his customary arrogance. Thank you, son. We're relatives, but the judicial situation went out of control. We can work this out. Rick, this is no longer family, it's business. You are now my renters. Act as though you do. Because Josh tried to bargain. He did, of course. What if we did say $800? Bro, we recently paid for that attorney and court costs after all. You tried to steal my house by hiring a lawyer with your money. I have no problem with that. In 3 weeks, you'll be out unless you pay $1,000. Jay was shaking his head in wonder when I hung up. I'll wager $100 that they don't make the initial payment, Theo. I thought Larry agreed with Jay's judgment because he stretched and knocked a pen off the sofa table. After learning about the leasing arrangement from the family, Uncle Samuel gave a call. Network of gossip. I've heard that you're giving them another chance by offering them rent, Theo. I wouldn't be as giving as you are. Do you think they'll pay? Samuel chuckled a laugh devoid of humor, child. For the past 4 years, Rick has not had a stable work. Josh earns maybe $200 a month playing with his computer, and Linda chooses to work part-time. What are your thoughts on February 8th? They signed the month-to-month lease at Anastasia's workplace. It was a difficult and awkward process. During the signing, Josh was behaving like I was being unreasonable and making crude remarks about every clause. You can just evict us if we don't pay our rent on time. That seems harsh to your tenants' families. Indeed, you are evicted if you fail to pay your rent. Renting operates in this manner. Anyway, dude, everything about this circumstance is messed up. You are aware of it. Rick complained about the monthly payment when he signed the lease. Linda persisted in inquiring about maintenance duties and utilities. They were mentally calculating whether they could really afford the payments the entire time, and I could see it. Despite her professionalism, Anastasia was obviously having fun. Based on my experience, Mr. Morrison, I'll keep the eviction documents available. You should have them in 30 days. February 10th passed quickly. No rent is due, just as Jay and Samuel had expected. February 12th, Linda called and made the usual excuses. We have a small cash flow problem, Theo, honey. Josh's customer hasn't paid him yet, and Rick's disability application is still pending. Are you able to receive it by the 15th? When I answered the phone, Jay was present, watching the show and eating pizza. Larry was lying on my lap, purring as though the drama surrounding the cash flow problem with the phone speaker was amusing him. In a mocking tone, Jay repeated, "That's just fancy wording for the fact that we hired a lawyer to steal your house with our rent money. We're doing our best, Theo. You can't cooperate with us. You committed to making the $1,000 payment by February 10th. The current date is February 12th. You're in default already. February 15th. No payment has been received yet." Rick called this time with his usual arrogant demeanor. "We need to discuss this rent dilemma, Theo. $1,000 is too much for the situation we are in right now." Jay laughed till he almost choked on his drink. Present conditions. You mean that you tried to take his house and ended up broke? Rick, you agreed to pay $1,000 a month when you signed the lease. You must go if you are unable to pay for it. Theo, please be sensible. We are related. We can figure something out. We're not related. You stated that clearly. Rent is not being paid by your tenants. Following 20 days of unfulfilled promises and excuses. The second eviction was filed by Anastasia. This is even simpler than the first one, Theo. A lease was signed by them. They have no legal standing at all and are in default. The court hearing on March 1st was terrible. It was obvious that the judge was irritated to see the same defendants again, particularly after their bogus adverse possession claim had squandered the court's time. Returning with the same family, Mr. Morrison, indeed, Your Honor. They neglected to pay the first month's rent after signing a leasing agreement. Josh's inability to hold his tongue was ideal for our situation. This is revenge, Your Honor. He is upset because we attempted to defend our rights. The judge appeared repulsed. You failed in your attempt to seize his house, son. You're not paying rent anymore. You committed to paying. Retaliation is not what that is. There are repercussions for that. Ruling in favor of the plaintiff. Defendants must leave within 7 days or risk being removed with the help of the sheriff. 7 days as opposed to 30. The judge was obviously fed up with their nonsense and want their quick departure. However, the eviction marked the beginning of the true drama. Josh's carefully crafted falsehoods began to fall apart in spectacular fashion as his desperation escalated into full-fledged abuse. I was in my flat 2 weeks after they were evicted when this big guy arrived at my door looking really angry. It was constructed like a tattooed bouncer. You don't want to be furious with them. You? Are you Theo Morrison? Yes, who is inquiring? It's Marcus. Brother Josh, I'm trying to find your piece of trash. I heard that he might be staying with you and he owes me money. I don't live with Josh. We don't exactly communicate well. Marcus appeared perplexed and growing irate. Man, that's strange. Josh told me he had stable design work and lived in a wonderful house with his family when he borrowed $5,000 from me last month. Showed me photos of every part of the house. My blood froze. You gave him a $5,000 loan. Yes. Claimed that he required it for software licenses for his company and expensive design equipment. Displayed his portfolio to me. Discussed all of the large business clients he was acquiring. Promised to reimburse me within 30 days, no issue. Josh had been using my property as collateral for loans, claiming to have a successful design business and to live there with his family. He had given Marcus photos of my driveway, garage, and land. He had been defrauding others of their money by passing off my success as his own. Children appeared genuine. Marcus went on. Portfolio of a professional, nice house for a family. Spoke intelligently about the expansion of his company. I now learn, however, that he is destitute and that his design business is a complete farce. What would happen if he didn't reimburse you? Marcus clearly intended to crack his knuckles. Well, I don't just write off $500. I have copies of his identification, his social security number, and his signed promissory note. I'm going to take him to court and charge him with fraud if he doesn't pay. Jay started giggling uncontrollably when Marcus departed. Your brother borrowed money by feigning to still be a resident of your home and to have a profitable business, dude. That is scamming on a whole other level. Josh called me from an unidentified number 2 days later, sounding anxious and in a panic. I need your assistance, Theo. Marcus is a man who is really interested in receiving his money back and is searching for me. Yes, he stopped by my house. By pretending to live in my residence, you were able to borrow $5,000. You see, I was desperate. I believed that once I had some large clients, I could reimburse him for the money I required for equipment. Josh, throughout the last 6 months, you've made about $200. Why did you believe you could repay $5,000? I'm not sure. I was hoping for a positive outcome, but now he's threatening to sue me and charge me with a crime. That is deception. Josh, you obtained money you knew you couldn't repay by using misleading information. Could you just assist me once? I'll reimburse you, I promise. You claim to have a profitable business and to have resided in my home in order to obtain a loan. It's not my problem, it's yours. I gave Uncle Samuel the update over the phone. After a moment of silence, Samuel burst out laughing with real joy. That tiny shit. He has been claiming to be a prosperous businessman despite earning $200 a month and living rent-free. This is ideal. Excellent. Josh just lied. Actual fraud with legal repercussions. This is no longer family drama. This is a real crime. That boy will soon discover what true repercussions look like. Josh was taken into custody 2 months later. It becomes out that he had more victims besides Marcus. At least 3 additional persons had given Josh loans. The entire amount of fraudulent loans was more than $12,000. All of this was acquired by presenting my home as evidence of his prosperity and stability. By taking photos of my property and using them as proof of his financial success and family support, he had been engaging in a systematic deception. Josh ultimately entered guilty pleas to several charges of deceptive theft and fraud. He received a criminal record that will follow him forever, 2 years of probation and reparation orders for all the money he had stolen. Because Josh had committed his fraud using family property, the judge was very punitive. Rick, meanwhile, broke into his brother's house after being evicted and was arrested for trespassing. He had been living with Uncle Paul until they were fed up with his rudeness and expelled him as well. Instead of locating suitable housing, he attempted to break into Paul's home to get his possessions, but was apprehended by neighbors. After destroying relationships with all of her relatives who attempted to assist her, Linda ended up in a women's shelter. It turns out that begging for money while continuously talking about your unappreciative son quickly wears family members out. Jay was the ideal tenant for my home. He paid $200 a month and took better care of it than my family ever did. He paid his rent early each month, sought permission before making any changes, and through his improvements and upkeep, he actually raised the property's value. Most importantly, Uncle Samuel became the extended family's sane voice. Anyone who tries to defend Rick or Linda is called out by him, equipped with knowledge and years of witnessing Rick's failure in life. At the most recent family get-together, Samuel informed Aunt Carol that Theo was the only sensible member of the family. Rick is a jerk. Linda is a facilitator. Theo is the only one who put in effort and succeeded, while Josh is a crook. Jay will be my best man in our small wedding, which Sarah and I are now organizing. What's the best part, you ask? Samuel stated at the celebration of our engagement. Not only did you get retribution on Rick, you demonstrated to the world what true success looks like. You are the owner of property. You're doing a fantastic job. You're surrounded by people who genuinely care about you, and you're getting married to a wonderful woman. They had every chance to show me some fundamental decency. while residing in my home at no cost. They opted for entitlement deception and court cases instead. While I'm prospering, they're now dispersed throughout the state dealing with criminal charges and the fallout from their own deeds. It's necessary to burn some bridges.